Something went catastrophically wrong. And the deeper you dig into this story, the more it feels like what we were shown publicly is only a carefully controlled version of a much darker and more serious reality that unfolded behind the scenes. A covert military operation, planned at the highest levels and executed under extreme secrecy, entered one of the most dangerous regions on Earth with the intention of shifting global power dynamics. But within hours, that mission reportedly collapsed in a way that is now raising uncomfortable questions across the world. And what makes this even more disturbing is that the story presented to the public and the version now being analyzed by experts are not just slightly different interpretations, they are completely conflicting realities. And the truth lies somewhere in between where very few are willing to look. Before we move forward, I want to say something important. I put a huge amount of effort into researching, analyzing, and bringing you these stories, but most of you don't even take a second to like the video, subscribe, or share it. I read and replied to your comments as well, yet the response is still very low, and honestly, that's disappointing. So I have a genuine request for you. Please support the work by following both my main channel, Market Mindset, and my backup channel, Market Mindset 2, because your support truly makes a difference. Now, to truly understand why this moment matters so much, you have to rewind the timeline and examine the growing pressure that had been building quietly for months. Because this was never just about a single mission. It was about a strategic confrontation that had been escalating behind closed doors long before the world started paying attention. Economic sanctions were tightening, diplomatic efforts were failing, and within Washington, there was increasing urgency to take a decisive action that could alter the balance of power before political timing made such a move impossible. At the same time, Iran was steadily advancing its nuclear capabilities, increasing uranium enrichment levels and strengthening its strategic position around the Strait of Hormuz, which is one of the most critical energy choke points in the world. This created a highly volatile situation where both sides were moving closer to a breaking point, and all it needed was one bold decision to trigger a chain reaction with global consequences. That decision came in the form of a highly ambitious operation reportedly designed to seize Iranian uranium stockpiles directly. A mission so bold that it sounded more like fiction than reality, yet it was approved and executed. But here is where the story takes a shocking turn, because almost immediately after the operation began, things started going wrong in ways that suggest this mission may have been compromised even before it was fully underway. Reports indicate that Iranian defenses were not caught off guard. Instead, they responded quickly, precisely, and effectively, which raises the possibility that they had prior awareness of the operation. If that assumption is even partially true, then this was not just a failed mission. It was a deeply flawed operation from the start, potentially exposed through intelligence leaks or miscalculations at the highest level. And then came the narrative shift, because soon after the failure, a new story began circulating about a downed pilot and a successful rescue, which initially appeared to frame the event as a partial success rather than a complete breakdown. However, analysts quickly started questioning the details, examining geography, timelines, and logistics, and the inconsistencies they found only added more doubt to the official version of events. When distances between reported locations do not match, when timelines do not align, and when critical details are missing, it creates a credibility gap that becomes impossible to ignore. Even more concerning is that criticism began coming from within the American defense community itself, with retired military officials using unusually strong language to describe the situation. Words like humiliating, historic failure, and unprecedented weakness are not used lightly, especially by insiders, and when they appear in serious discussions, it signals that the issue runs deeper than what is being publicly acknowledged. The involvement of Israel adds another critical layer to this story, because U.S.-Israel coordination on Iran-related operations is extensive, and Israeli concerns over Iran's nuclear capabilities are driven by existential fears. This means that pressure for further action is not only coming from within the United States, but also from external allies who view the situation as urgent and unresolved. And that leads to a dangerous question, because if the first operation failed, will there be a second attempt? And if so, will it be even more aggressive? The risk here is that repeating the same strategy without addressing the underlying failures could lead to an even more significant setback, potentially escalating the conflict beyond control. When we step back and analyze the broader picture, three major issues begin to emerge, and each one reveals a deeper structural weakness. The first is intelligence failure, because operations of this scale require near-perfect information, and even a small error can completely compromise the mission. The second is strategic overreach, where the ambition of the objective exceeds the practical capability to achieve it under real-world conditions. The third is credibility damage, which affects not just one operation, but the perception of power across the global stage. And this is where the financial impact begins to unfold, because geopolitical instability directly influences global markets, especially energy markets tied to the Strait of Hormuz. Any disruption in this region affects oil supply, shipping routes, and ultimately the cost of living worldwide, making this issue relevant far beyond military circles. Meanwhile, global powers like China and European nations are adjusting their strategies, including shifting financial assets and increasing gold reserves as a hedge against uncertainty. These moves are not random. They are calculated responses to a changing global order where trust in traditional systems is being reevaluated. For Gulf states, this situation creates serious concerns, as their security frameworks rely heavily on American strength and reliability. If that reliability is questioned, it forces a complete reassessment of regional alliances and long-term strategies. For everyday citizens, the impact is more subtle but equally significant, showing up in rising fuel prices, inflation, and economic uncertainty. So now the world is watching closely, asking one critical question: what happens next? There are three possible paths forward: escalation, negotiation, or prolonged stalemate, and each comes with its own risks and consequences. Escalation could intensify the conflict dramatically, negotiation requires difficult compromises, and stalemate leads to long-term instability. What makes this moment historic is that it challenges long-standing assumptions about global power and influence in the modern world. It forces policymakers, analysts, and even ordinary people to reconsider what strength really means in a rapidly evolving geopolitical landscape. Because in the end, this is not just about one failed mission. It is about a shifting balance of power that could redefine international relations for years to come. And the consequences of that shift are already beginning to ripple across politics, economics, and global strategy. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think this was a temporary setback or a sign of a deeper change in global power dynamics? And if you were in a position to decide the next move, would you escalate, negotiate, or step back and reassess the situation carefully? Drop your opinion in the comments below, because I read every single one, and your perspective matters more than you think. And if you found this analysis valuable, make sure to like, share this video with others, and subscribe to Market Mindset so you stay ahead of the biggest global stories before they unfold.